Ghosts, spirits, poltergeists, demons. Do they exist? Is there life after life? Are there unseen entities around us? Can they communicate? Do you believe? What happens in the shadows doesn't always stay in the shadows. Live from Northwest Georgia, covering the region and beyond, this is Georgia Paranormal Radio. And now, here is your host, Mike Watkins.
Good evening! Welcome to another edition of Georgia Paranormal Radio. This is your host, Mike Watkins, and I'm glad that you've joined me for episode 13. We had originally intended to do some special guests for this program, but due to some scheduling conflicts, we have had to kind of move that show into next year. We're going to do that sometime in January, and you'll be wanting to stay tuned to hear those good folks. They're some good friends of ours, and we've investigated with them. We really look forward to talking to them on the air. So tonight we kind of had to shift gears and come up with another show for you. So tonight, instead of those good folks, we're going to talk about protection and cleansing. Yeah, we're talking about physical protection and spiritual protection and cleansing. So, should be interesting. Hopefully, you'll learn something or think about your own ways of doing things here, and might just provoke you into a little bit of change. Now, before we get started on protection and cleansing, we're going to talk about some updates, some news of interest. Finally, after, oh Lord, I don't know how many years of putting it off, we finally have a MySpace page for the group and the radio show, and for me, and it's all on one page. I didn't feel like doing three of them because, anybody who's ever done HTML and CSS website design, it gives me a headache. Good Lord, I hate doing that. So we just combined all three things onto one page, and we've already got some friends on there. The address for that is www.myspace.com, M-Y-S-P-A-C-E, is how you spell MySpace. It's all one word. And then you're going to do a little / thing there and put NWGAPIT. So it'll be www.myspace.com / NWGAPIT. And that'll take you right to it. And at the time of this coming out, we've already got 20 or so friends, and there's a lot of folks on MySpace, and I honestly had never realized just how popular it was, but there's something like 140 million people on there. Good Lord, 140 million! I mean, that's half the population of America. So, wow. There's teenagers on there, there's housewives, there's grandparents on there, there's even celebrities on there. Several of our friends, I set out when I was doing it, I just wanted to see if it could work. And, I sent a little friendship request to a couple of famous people, Jason and Grant from the Ghost Hunters TV show, and, they responded right away. And I think it's pretty interesting to exchange links with these folks and with anybody, really. Anybody who wants to be your virtual friend, you just exchange the link with them. And I think it's really interesting. It's really great. And so maybe you'll just jump on there and add us as your friend. And we'd certainly love to have you as a friend on there. And, hopefully we can get a lot of folks that listen to this program and follow it to add us as their friend. And it'd just be a great way of putting some faces with some of the names that I've got in emails and putting some faces with some of the listeners. And so hopefully you'll do that. I encourage you to do that. And so that's all I have as far as news for this episode. Kind of the rescheduling a guest, the MySpace account. So let's just jump right in to spiritual and physical protection. And some of these are from notes that I have typed up. Part of it's actually from a book project that I'm working on. I've been working on a book now for a couple of years, and only got a couple of chapters into it. I seem to, think about it whenever I don't have time to do it. And then when I actually do have a little bit of free time, I'm just not inspired to write a book. So it's a slow process. Anybody who's ever tried to write a book, they know it's a slow process. So, but this is actually one of the first chapters that I have done is on protection and cleansing, and that in Ghost Hunting 101. There's a couple of chapters on that I completed initially, and you've heard some of that material on this broadcast also. So let's just jump right in here to physical and spiritual protection. And what really started me thinking about this was that a lot of people ask me what I do or what my team members do to shield or protect themselves from any negative spirits or demons or other entities that are out there that would want to harass us or do any harm to us while we're out investigating. And, I had to think hard about that, because really and truly the truth of the matter is that I don't think about protection. Protection is hardly ever thought of until it's too late, it would seem. We've been very fortunate, and I particularly have been very, very fortunate to only ever encounter one truly negative entity. Maybe it's because our team goes in with a positive attitude. Maybe it's because I say a little prayer, oftentimes before beginning. Maybe fortune just favors fools and paranormal investigators. I don't know. So, I do know that I am very grateful to have had the many positive experiences I have on investigations. And I have to say that I believe that most human spirits are relatively benign. They seem to retain almost the same personality traits that they had while they were living. And most humans, whether you agree with this or not, most humans do have a basically decent nature about them. I mean, there's a small percentage of humans that are nasty. They're just awful people, and they're just nasty people. And that transfers into the spirit world as well. They may try to scare or harass or even harm an investigator. But the good news about that, in my experiences, it's been that those negative spirits are really few and far between. And even more rare are the encounters with the inhuman spirits or the demons. And in all the years I've been doing this, three, maybe 4 years, it's hard to remember sometimes. I love it so much and I do it so often, it's hard to think about a time that I wasn't doing the paranormal investigations. But during my time that I've been doing this, I've only definitely dealt with one. The one demon. And anybody that knows me and has heard me recount the story can tell you that event scared me on so many levels. But, a shadowy figure growling at you in an old cemetery would probably scare just about anybody. And I know that sounds like a load of malarkey, but it happened, and there are witnesses, folks. This thing, the feelings that come out of that thing were just horrible. It was a feeling of darkness and contempt, and it just seemed to emanate from this entity. And you could tell, or I could tell, it seemed to me at the time that it was a very powerful thing, and it was very frightening. And, how I reacted was just, I just drew my sidearm and I leveled it on the thing. And I thought it was somebody at first, not something. After realizing what it really was, when you could kind of see through the thing, I and the team members with me, we made a tactical retreat, so to say, to an area deemed much safer, home. So, the need for protection from the paranormal it really is a hotbed issue. Some people say that you can't be harmed at all by the unseen world. Others believe that a spirit can only scare you and consequently make you hurt yourself in some way, like breaking a leg after tripping over a tombstone while running from what just popped up in front of you. It happens. Trust me, it happens. I've never broke a leg, but I've had a few nice trips. Another school of thought on that is that human spirits can inflict slight harm. Say 5 or 10 pounds of pressure. If they really focus on the task and they draw energy from their environment and or combine energies with other spirits, and I don't know how true that is. I'm sure there's people out there who have had experiences which would agree with that, and there's people that have had experiences which would disagree with that. So it's kind of subjective. That's why it's the paranormal. It's the unknown. There are no specific answers. It's also, people say that an inhuman spirit or a demon has much more strength and much more ability to affect the living, which is biblical. If you're into the Bible, if you're, even Jewish or Christian, it is biblical that these demons or inhuman spirits can really do some damage if allowed. I personally am a Christian. I'm not a good one. I've said that before. But there are certain truths that hold, whether you're a good Christian or not. There are certain biblical truths which hold, and I believe that one. I do, that an inhuman spirit or demon has much more strength than just a ghost. Now, in telling that story, I brought up another subject, which was my sidearm. I heard the brakes slam on when I said that, so I guess I better cover that. And the best way I can cover it is this. When I was just a wee little lad, my grandmother, Lord love her soul, she's passed on now, but she often shared with me these little words of wisdom about life and about living. It really happened on the nights when I couldn't sleep and I thought that there was a monster under the bed or a ghost in the closet just waiting to come out and get me. And she would often say things to kind of comfort me and to educate me. And, she would say in her stern but sweet kind of way, she would say, "It ain't the dead you got to worry about, boy. It's the living that'll get you." And Lord love Granny Watkins. She was a hoot. So, that's true, though. I've found that it's just a plain and simple philosophy, and every day I find that to be more true. And it's because of that philosophy and because of that ideology that I have often brought a sidearm along on my investigations. And of course that's dependent upon the reputation of the area and who's going with me and many other factors. A lot of people out there, I know some of you right now are thinking this is a great idea. We should all have it, somebody with a firearm just in case the worst happens. And then there's the other school of thought out there that think it's the most reprehensible concept that they've ever heard of. So, we'll break it down even further into this and discuss it like this. Having a sidearm does add an element of physical safety to the investigation scene. Absolutely. But it also adds an element of extreme danger. Absolutely. If you are not properly trained and licensed to carry a gun or a firearm, then for the love of God, do not carry a firearm. This applies to those of you that are too jumpy for your own good, especially. There are people out there who jump at their own shadow. They do not need to be toting a gun. I don't want to be anywhere near one of those nervous Nelly type people with a loaded gun. You can picture it. Just picture this scene in your mind, folks. You're out in the cemetery, you're out somewhere in the middle of the night, and there's Nervous Nelly with a gun. You kind of come around the corner, or you snap a twig. you do something unannounced and you startle that aforementioned nervous Nelly, and you end up with a gunshot wound and in the nearest hospital or in the nearest funeral home, depending on how good of a shot they are. You know, that's not my idea of fun or interesting. Is going home with a gunshot wound. I'm just not a big fan. But if you're a level-headed person, if you're properly trained and properly licensed to carry a firearm, I see no problem with having one around for physical protection. However, you must consider other people's feelings about this. A lot of folks are just uncomfortable around guns. And it's hard for them to focus on a task like investigating, which can be stressful at times. It's hard for them to focus on that task because of you having a big honking gun on your side. Okay, that's kind of distracting. It also can present a certain image to the public if you happen to be conducting a public investigation or at a public event. Because most people, they associate the carrying of a gun or carrying of a firearm into two categories. Basically, there's other people that carry guns, but we're talking about pistols. But they associate it with two categories. You're either in law enforcement or public safety, or you're a criminal. So, if we take that to the next level, the public is going to likely see you as either a paranoid, law-breaking nutcase, toting around a gun because you're scared of dead people, or the paranormal police, making death safe for everybody. And I know those are some exaggerated points of view, but, I've heard it all, folks. I work in law enforcement, and I can often be found with a firearm on my side when I'm off duty. Most people will give you some very strange looks if you're in civilian clothes with a gun on your side. A lot of times I wear one on my ankle just so people can't see it. But if you're walking around with a gun on your side in civilian clothes, people are going to look at you strange. They're going to look at you even more strange if you happen to be wearing a ghost hunting uniform. And I say uniform, a lot of people have team shirts or whatever, and some of them have Ghost Hunter blazed on the back of it and all. Could you just picture somebody in that uniform walking around with a big gun on their side? People are going to look at you a little strange. So that's why my group, the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team, has an established policy, and it only permits certified law enforcement officers the privilege and opportunity to carry a firearm. This really, it ensures our safety and prevents otherwise well-intentioned, good people from overreacting and to a bad situation or to a surprising situation, and maybe using that firearm when they shouldn't. So my point's this: you should consider other people's opinions and feelings on this issue. You should consider your group's policy. You should consider any federal, state, and local laws, and you need to think about all that and just how stable of a person you are before you decide to strap on that 6-gun or that automatic pistol and go out and about. Okay? Now, here's another element that we can talk about. And this is going to be, it's possible that it happens. Let's say you're out in the cemetery. You have a gun. And you just happen to be approached by a law enforcement officer while on an investigation. And you have that gun on. You may find that officer or officers are not very friendly initially. They're going to want you disarmed for their safety and yours. And this may mean looking like an episode of Cops is being filmed, okay? You always want to cooperate with officers and follow their directions to you, especially if you're wearing a gun. Even if you're not, but especially if you're wearing a gun. And I'll tell you this, it's a simple truth. If you don't believe me, just watch the news, just watch an episode of Cops, whatever. A threatened officer is an unhappy officer. And a threatening subject is very often an injured or killed subject. Okay? Now, like I said before, my team has a lot of law enforcement, a lot of public safety personnel on it, because I actively recruit them. And we would seem to have a little bit of an advantage as far as law enforcement interaction goes. It's also boosted our credibility somewhat, and provided us with some opportunities to access some, more restricted areas and locations. So, that as far as physical protection, carrying a gun, I know that's a big issue, and just do the right thing. You know your own self, you know your own limits. You need to know the law, and do the right thing with that. And this might be a good time to let me wet my whistle for just a minute and take a little bit of a commercial break. And when we get back, we'll talk about some protection tools and maybe get into a little bit of cleansing. So sit back, listen to this break, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey folks, Mike Watkins here. Many of you know me as the host of Georgia Paranormal Radio, but I'm also the founder and general manager of the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team, which is an anchoring sponsor of this program. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team was founded back in 2004 as a scientifically based research and documentation team. This investigative group has over 17 years of combined experience in dealing with the paranormal, and the unique perspectives and specialties that each member investigator contributes really gives you the full package. You can trust the Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team to thoroughly, yet discreetly and confidentially, investigate and document any paranormal phenomenon that you may be experiencing. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team serves a large area of North Georgia, North Alabama, and even Southeast Tennessee. As always, their time and services are 100% free of charge. All they ask for is an invitation from you to let them investigate those cold spots, bumps in the night, or anything else paranormal. And contacting them couldn't be any easier either. Just go to www.nwgapit.com and check them out. The Northwest Georgia Paranormal Investigation Team, proudly bringing you Georgia Paranormal Radio and proudly investigating what you fear. Alright, welcome back everybody. I appreciate you listening to that break and sticking with us. We're talking about protection and spiritual, physical, mental for the paranormal investigator. And, there's a lot of thoughts on this. There's a lot of school of thoughts on protection while you're paranormal investigating. There's a lot of school of thoughts on which part of you can be attacked, if any, while you're investigating. Can a spirit attack your body? Can a spirit attack your mind? Can they attack your spirit, your soul? Can they do anything at all? You could really write a book on what I'm just talking about right now. It's a huge subject, and there's so many different ideas and theories. It's just, there's so much. And like I said before, when I started in this field, I didn't really think about protection. Just went out, gathered my evidence, went home. And, after a few times of doing that and a few strange events happening, I decided I needed a protection routine. It's nothing sophisticated, nothing complex, nothing terribly elaborate. It's just basically going into an investigation with a positive attitude, an open mind, and I say a little prayer before I go too far into the scene. Some of you probably just slammed on the brakes. Some of you may not believe in praying. Some of you may say that your faith doesn't call for prayers, or faith has nothing to do with paranormal investigations. Maybe you don't have any faith at all. Whatever it is, it works for me. that's your opinion, and this is mine. And I'm not saying that you have to convert to any particular religious belief system or all of a sudden find your faith. It works for me. I say a short little prayer to whom I hold to be the great power in the universe, and I also say it when I'm at the beginning of the investigation and at the end of the investigation. And it really can save you some problems down the road, like something following you home. Yeah, it happens. I hear some people scoffing out there now, but it really does happen. I wouldn't have believed it either if it hadn't happened to me. But try it. Try it. If you're having strange feelings and strange things happening after you do an investigation, try doing a little prayer. You may also find that your investigations go smoother and you have more and better results. And, for me, it comes down to getting a peaceful night's sleep after an investigation and not having that ominous feeling lurking around you after one, because sometimes things really do follow you home. I'm not going to get into how to pray or any of that good stuff, because that's a personal thing. It doesn't have to be one of those 20-minute revival prayers or anything like that. But you basically just want to address whom you're praying to and ask for their blessings, their guidance, their protection. Ask them to show you what there is to be seen there. And I often add that any inhuman or evil spirit there be bound and not able to interact, and that any human spirits are there be made to show themselves. That's what happened. That's the prayer I do when I go in. And then the closing prayer, I basically thank them, thank that higher power for the blessing, the protection. And I also ask that any spirits that are there, whether they're human or inhuman, remain there or go where they're commanded to go by that higher power. That's what works for me. For other people, prayers might not work. They may just not believe in them. So a lot of people use crystals. I haven't done much with crystals. I do have a quartz crystal, and they say a lot of that comes from Native American beliefs in using crystals as a spirit detector and protector. That's hard to say fast. But, the big thing is that they need to be positively charged, dependent upon the belief of the tribe or the belief system that you're practicing out of. Like I said, I've had very limited experience with these, but they really do seem to react in an atmosphere where a negative entity is, or suspected to be. I have a big clear quartz crystal, and I've seen it change to a yellow-brown color after, moderate exposure to an area that was believed to have a malevolent spirit in it. Maybe it was a coincidence. I don't really believe in coincidences. I believe that everything happens for a reason. So I can't really say for certain, but more research and experimentation is really needed in this area to validate any findings that I have. I haven't played with it a lot. Now I do know, like I said, that the Native Americans have some very strong beliefs about crystals, and the power that's in the crystals, and their proper use, and their connection to the spirit world. So, and the positively charged, I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. There is a way to, if it's not a positively charged crystal, there is a way to make it that way, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Another thing, I really don't consider myself superstitious, but some of those old wives' tales that you hear, and the superstitions that go along with them, they really do seem to have some basis in fact. Take for instance the superstition about walking under a ladder. Some people say it's bad luck to walk under a ladder. Well, it may not be bad luck, but it is common sense. Something or somebody could fall off of that ladder, or the ladder itself could go sliding down the wall while you're walking under it, and you could be seriously injured or killed. That's common sense, folks. It's not good luck or bad luck. That's common sense. There's also the other old superstitions about if your nose is itching, you're going to have a visitor, or your ears are burning, somebody's talking about you. I believe that one's true, by the way, but that may just be the paranoia talking. I don't know. They say if your right hand is itching, you're going to be shaking hands with a stranger. Your left hand is itching, you may receive some money. Breaking a mirror. Now there's a good one. 7 years of bad luck. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other superstitions and cultural curiosities that people seem to believe in, or will at least repeat when prompted by a situation. I just don't know about superstitions. I'm not very superstitious. I think a lot of it's common sense. Now, some of it, you have to wonder. Now, me not being superstitious, I will let you in on this, though. There is an old superstition that says if you carry a piece of silver with you at all times, it will ward off evil spirits, bad luck, and poverty. And by piece of silver, I mean like a silver coin or something like that. So, I don't know how true it is. Even though Hollywood, I guess, tells us, Hollywood is going to tell us that, I get this picture in my mind of werewolves, scattering at the shot of silver. So Hollywood tells us that it's going to kill those pesky werewolves, but I don't know how true that is. But, just to be on the safe side, since I heard that superstition when I was about 12 years old, I have carried a silver dollar in my change pocket at all times. It couldn't hurt. It may be true. So, you can try that. Salt. Wow, yeah, salt. I'm looking at my notes here, and the next one was salt. There are so many references in other cultures and other religious beliefs that believe that salt protects you from and or even wards off spirits or entities, the evil ones in particular. The use of salt for that has been, who knows? There's so many different belief systems. It's just so different with each belief system. Now, the most common use of salt is using sea salt dissolved in warm water, or sprinkling it around the perimeter of a home, just dry salt. You can either put it in water or dry, and you put it around the perimeter of a room, a home, or a building, or your entire property. And it's believed that these evil spirits just can't cross that line. It's like you're drawing a line in the sand, and they can't cross it. I've never experimented with this, because it would be unreal to establish a baseline or a controlled data set to measure if it really worked or not. So I've never tried it. There's probably some of you out there that have, and I would love to hear about it. Now, back to the quartz crystal. It really should be noted that soaking a quartz crystal in salt, or sea salt, as the case may be in whatever particular tribe or belief system you hold, you soak it in that salt, dissolved in water, in direct sunlight. That is the preferred method of cleaning and positively recharging a dirty or depleted quartz crystal. Now, I have seen that aforementioned yellowish-brown dirty crystal restored to its original crystal clear color after a recharging soak. Sage, that's one of my notes here. That's something that I have and use. I'm a quarter Cherokee, just 1/4. I have a quarter German, a quarter Irish, a quarter Scottish, and a quarter Cherokee in me. So, the Cherokee people use sage, and more so, the other Native American tribes use sage for forever. They have a very strong connection with the earth and the herbs and the plants that the earth provides to them. And they've really forever recognized the ties that bind us all together and to the planet. And one of the most powerful plants they use is sage, particularly the white or the desert sage. The Native Americans believe that smoldering or smudging sage is a way to remove negative energy or negative spiritual influences. I have done this ritual, I have experienced this ritual many times, and it is absolutely incredible, folks. The positive energy that you feel generated around you, you can feel it. I mean, it's just like reaching out and touching it. It is incredible. The first time I ever did it, I honestly felt like a weight had been lifted from around me. It's just like the atmosphere around me got lighter. And because of that, I really regularly smudge my home and myself because of those positive feelings. Now again, it could just be a coincidence, which I don't believe that much in coincidences. It could be the placebo effect. We'll say that. It could just be a placebo effect. But hey, the placebo works fine for me. So there's other techniques out there. There's other superstitions, other rituals that are, good Lord, they're unique. They're diverse. They're probably, some of them are probably would seem just as strange to me as the people that practice them. It would be impossible to talk about that on the air. I hated to go into this subject because I'm going to leave so much out that some of you would probably have wanted to hear. But there's just so much out there; it'd be impossible to cover it. So I'll break it down like this. Whatever you find that works for you, whether it's prayer, crystals, salt, sage, standing on your head for 78 seconds in the northwest corner of a room, whatever, stick to it. If it works for you, stick to it. It might not even be. This is kind of the provocative thing, and I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here, so excuse me for dragging on. But it might not even really be the technique or the tool that matters. Maybe it's your faith in it that really counts. Yeah. The mind is so powerful, folks. It's a very powerful thing. Convincing yourself of something may not be easy, but when you do, and when you believe in it, it's really hard to override that. Okay? Faith or belief is a very powerful thing. People that are of an organized faith group, Christianity, people that are faithful in going to church, or temple, or whatever you go to, people that belong to an organized faith group would seem to live longer. They would seem to be healthier. They would seem to have happier lives. That's not me saying this, folks. That is, dozens of recent scientific studies confirming this. And I'm not saying that you have to use any of these tools. I'm not saying you have to convert to any faith. These are just my opinions. They're based on personal facts. They're based on observations that I've made. And I hope maybe you've garnered something from the protection tools part. Because the next thing I'm going to cover is going to need some protection. So to sum up the whole protection thing, I can simply say this, and this is a catchy line from my book. It's one of the catchy lines that I have in my book. Whatever you believe in it. Whatever you believe in it. And you can't go wrong. Okay? So, that's protection tools, or at least a snippet of protection tools. So, I go through all that just to get to this. and hopefully talking about protection, whether it's, the spiritual, the physical, the mental, hopefully it's made you think a little bit and maybe convinced you to cover your own butt sometimes when it comes to this kind of thing. And nothing is more intensely frightening, I would say, than a really and truly infested house. If there's entities in there that don't want the living there, and they're very active, there's intelligent hauntings, malicious hauntings, that worries me. I don't like to deal with those too much. I like to document them. My group doesn't offer cleansings. There is no 100% proven method of accomplishing a spiritual cleansing. Okay? You cannot guarantee it. So that's why we don't do it. If you don't believe me that it is not 100% guaranteed, then why don't you just go ask the Catholic Church? Yeah. Many times a priest or an exorcist has to have several sessions with various techniques to remove the spirit or entity from the location or a person. Now, like I said, my group does not generally do this. There's been a couple of occasions where I have intervened in a situation, but they number very, very few, folks. I'm here to tell you, they number very few. Most people have a rather benign haunting or a rather benign spirit in their home or business. And, down here where we are here in the South, a lot of folks actually like having them around. A lot of people you talk to only want the phenomenon that they're experiencing documented, so they don't think they're crazy. And, a lot of them think it is kind of a token of esteem that they live in a haunted house. So a lot of folks, you don't encounter the nasty hauntings like you see in the movies or anything. And so that's a positive thing. But I will say this, they are out there. They may be few and far between, but they are out there. And the only way that I would ever attempt to do a cleansing in an environment is if it's just extremely volatile. And I'd have to be for sure, 100% sure, that the spirit or entity that's there is the true cause of the problems. And I would have to be 100% sure that a cleansing would not cause more harm than good. You don't want to go in and make things worse for people. Okay. Let me just go ahead and warn you. If you cannot help somebody, for those of you that are actually in groups, those of you that are actually going out and investigating and, if worse come to worse, doing a removal or a cleansing, if you cannot help somebody with a cleansing, for the love of God or for the love of whoever you hold dear, please refer them to someone who can. If you're not sure you can do it, then get somebody who is sure. There is no shame, people. There is no shame in asking for help. And like I said before, you can make things worse for these people if you attempt to do a cleansing and do not deliver the goods. Now, to you, it may not seem like a big deal. You know why? Because you get to go home when you're done. The people that live there are already home, and they will have to cope with the repercussions of your failure for a long time. Now, and your intentions may be good, but, the road to perdition is paved with good intentions sometimes. You don't want to make things worse for people. If you cannot deliver, if you're not 100% sure that you can't deliver, or that you can deliver, then don't do it. You also need to note that a spiritual cleansing can be very draining on you physically, emotionally, and spiritually, depending on the type of spirit or entity that is around. and in the methods that you employ to get rid of them. Okay? If you do this, if you've decided to throw caution to the wind and go ahead with a cleansing, please, please use extreme caution. It's not a joke. It's very serious, and you need to be very careful. Since I've opened up this can of worms, let me just go ahead and go further. Okay, it's not right to leave you hanging. I'm by no means an expert, but generally, this is the way to go about cleansing. The initial step that I usually advise when seeking to remove an unwanted spirit or entity is simply telling it to leave. Taking charge of your home is your right. Not only physically, but spiritually as well. Okay? What occurs in your household is up to you. It's up to your client. If it's their house, it's up to them. You would not tolerate somebody coming into your house creating a frightening or hostile environment. You wouldn't put up with that for very long. Let alone a total stranger. I mean, if it was your family coming in and doing it, you would bide your time and you'd take a little bit. But if it was a total stranger coming into your house and creating this frightening or scary or hostile environment, you wouldn't put up with it. You'd be miserable. You would literally be miserable, and you would begin to suffer in every aspect of your life. So the same really applies to spirits or entities. Okay? Many investigators believe that acknowledging the phenomenon can give it a foothold in your home. Many times, not acknowledging it will help stop it, because sometimes all they want is attention. So, if ignoring the situation doesn't work, try rationally and logically explaining the situation out loud. That's for the homeowner. This may convince the offending energy to pack up and leave. I've even heard of people forcibly taking control back and very loudly screaming, stating their case to whomever or whatever is there. Oftentimes, it has to be done more than once, though. Especially if the energy is, pretty strong or particularly stubborn. It's just a simple step sometimes. If ignoring it doesn't work, it's the next step. It's the next simple step to remove that excess baggage. Okay? So that didn't work. The next thing I have recommended to people is, and this may not agree with your faith or lack thereof, and it may sound odd, but the next thing I have recommended is leaving an open Bible in a room. It can really have a major effect on the atmosphere in there. That's another one of those wise old jewels from my grandmother, Granny Watkins, and she was a wise one, but this is one of her jewels. She taught me this. There's a lot of reasons why it could work. The obvious and most simple reason I would say is your faith. Faith is a very powerful thing, and if you believe something will work, it probably will. If you have enough belief in it, it probably will. I remember using this in this situation not too long ago. A friend of mine was talking to me, and she happened to mention that she had a religious item hanging on the wall. I can't remember if it was a picture or a cross or a clock. It was some kind of religious item, though, hanging on a wall. And the thing would drop off the wall for no apparent reason. So every time she would go back, she'd check the wall, and she'd check the item, she'd check the nail, and she would securely hang the thing up again. Well, sooner than later, more soon than later, it would fall off the wall again with no apparent reason. So this kept going on and going on and going on. So it really started to puzzle and concern her. She wondered what or who was causing this thing, or this thing to occur. And so I gave her just a little advice to place a Bible in the room, open to either the 23rd Psalm or the 91st Psalm. And I checked back with her today, as a matter of fact, because I was thinking about this. And, the activity has not continued. It has not continued. The thing has not fell off the wall anymore. Another example of this working is a case of night terrors. This person that I know was experiencing severe nightmares, and he often woke up feeling as though something or somebody was in the room with him. So, after placing an open Bible in the room, open to the 91st Psalm, the activity stopped. So, did the Bible help, or was it just one of those coincidences? I don't know. I know what I've seen and I know what I believe, and I rarely ever question success. I'll often recommend this as the next step to bring relief. And sometimes even as the first step, based on the situation and the religious beliefs of the person I'm talking to. The next thing is anointing oil. This goes back to my days as a minister, folks. The Christian church holds that anointing someone or something with blessed oil is sacred and has a sanctifying or, cleansing, setting apart type effect. Now, I personally use olive oil mixed with a bit of frankincense and myrrh fragrance. It just gives it a better smell, I always ask God to bless and protect whomever or whatever I happen to be anointing the oil with, and ask Him to remove any unclean spirits or entities from the home or from whatever I'm anointing. I had an occasion to use this technique in my own home shortly after I began investigating the paranormal. Something followed me home from a ghost hunt, and within the span of 2 days had managed to show out and really make its presence known. So after a sleepless night due to noises and uncomfortable feelings, using the open Bible technique to no avail, I took the next step up to this method. I anointed every door frame and window sill to form a barrier around my home, leaving one avenue of exit, and the activity immediately stopped. This method is a very powerful thing. It is very powerful. And I put a lot of faith in it. I really do. I believe it has the ability to handle many spiritual problems. I really compare it to a spiritual atom bomb. It's like dropping a bomb on it. And it really, for the Catholics out there, it really works along the same principles as holy water. They do the dashing or sprinkling of water blessed by a priest. And it's also a very powerful tool. But I recommend that it only be done by somebody of the Catholic faith. Because, well, it's obvious, it's their tool. I talked about smudging before for cleansing. Like I said, all the Native American cultures had a smudging ceremony. And they're pretty well similar among all the cultures. Now, I prefer smudging with loose white sage. Sage comes in many, many varieties, and it can be loose or bundled. But the method is this. It is to light the sage on fire and blow out the flames so that the sage is just kind of smoldering. So it's letting off some smoke, but it's not really burning heavily. Okay? Once the sage is smoldering and that smoke is coming out, you fan the smoke around yourself and then around the room or the rooms in a clockwise way. Some people use a feather from an eagle, a hawk, an owl, or another medium to large size feather to spread the smoke around. Now this feather, if you're doing it that way, the feather really needs to have been gifted to you. And that means left by the bird for you, and it will spread that smoke really effectively. I do have a gifted feather but often do not use it. It's a personal preference, and it varies from civilization to civilization and from culture to culture. Okay? This method is said to remove negative energies and allow positive energies to flow in. It's also acceptable to smudge with other sacred plants like cedar and sweetgrass. To use the terminology of the ancestors, this is strong medicine. Okay? I recommend using this technique only if you really and truly know what you're doing. As with the spiritual protection part of the show, I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other methods out there that can be successfully employed to cleanse an area. These are just the ones that I know, and more importantly, these are the ones that I know work for me. If I have to go beyond these measures, I really probably shouldn't have started the process to begin with. If these techniques don't help, or unfortunately if they've made things worse, then it is the investigator's responsibility to get the client the help they need, the advanced help that they need. Don't leave a client hanging when their home is in turmoil. You should help them seek out more advanced investigators, or even the clergy to assist as their faith, dictates. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just go out and make the situation worse. Like I said before, there's no shame in asking for help. So if you need the more advanced help, or you need the clergy, get them. Get them for your client. They have to live with this. You don't. The good side of the coin is that this type of phenomenon is rare, and hopefully you won't encounter it before you're ready for it. Like I said, there's a lot of techniques here, folks. There's probably a dozen other methods and techniques for protection and cleansing that I could go into. What works for me may not work for you. Okay? I am thoroughly convinced that the method is only part of the equation here. Your faith or your belief in the technique provides the power for it to work. If you do not have faith in what you're doing, how can the people that you're trying to assist have faith in what you're doing? Do you think that maybe your non-belief in your methods or techniques would have an impact on the final result? You bet it would. I mean, good Lord, if you don't believe in what you're doing, why would you even do it? And I have to say this, it's a biblical reference. It says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You need to believe in what you're doing. You don't need to get in over your head if you can help it. Yeah, don't try to get rid of something evil or malicious or malevolent if you're not qualified to do it. Okay? I know it's kind of a heavy topic, and I could spend a lot more time on it than I have. I really could. But like I said, that's what works for me. Those are the little things that work for me, the little jewels I've picked up, and hopefully that's helped you along the way somehow, okay? I really hope that's helped you some. That's about all I have to talk about tonight from my notes and off the top of my head, I should say, and little excerpts from my book that I've worked on spiritual protection and cleansing. That's about it. I guess I could expand the book now that you've heard some of it and expand it into other cultures and beliefs. I may do that one day when I actually have the time to sit down and write, and am motivated to sit down and write. For those of you of the Christian faith, this episode is being put out on December the 20th, 2006, and we're 5 days away from Christmas. I have a special EVP that I'm going to close, almost close the show out with with a little message for you. It's an actual EVP we got in the last week or two. My thanks to David Westbrooks for providing this EVP for me. But I want to say before I play that and before I wrap things up here that I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate your comments on last week's episode. I appreciate the feedback, and I just appreciate you. And thank you all for following the program. Thank you all for sticking with us while we grow and mature and become better. And hopefully you think we are growing and are maturing and are getting better. Stick with us because it's only going to get better, folks. Whether you're, agnostic or atheist, or you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or whatever faith you are, there's a lot of religious holidays around this time of year, and I hope you have a happy holiday. I'm going to play this EVP for you, and I'll be right back after I play it, and, here you go. Yeah, it's kind of a Class B, maybe, a Class B, Class C EVP. Hopefully you got out of it that it was saying Merry Christmas. For those of you that celebrate Christmas, have a Merry Christmas. You kind of can generally cover it by saying Happy Holidays. So whatever works for you, I hope you have a pleasant holiday season. I hope you have a very pleasant holiday that you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate one, well, I hope you just have a good day. I appreciate you listening. I'm going to leave you tonight with, of course, the music of Devin Anderson. It's kind of our new outro music, and I like it. I hope you do too. And I thank you for listening to Georgia Paranormal Radio, episode number 13. Hope you have a happy holiday season. Good night. And if you're going out to investigate, hey, if you're not, just be careful. Take the extra couple of seconds, do the right thing, and be safe out there. Your family will appreciate it. You'll appreciate it when you make it home to them. And I'll appreciate it because you'll be listening next time. Good night, everybody.
underground. We are 6 feet underground.